Okay? It's a lot more than what I expected. I thought it's just going to be my bosses right there. Shout-outs. So welcome, everyone, to Bridging the Gap, developing with the Lightning Design System in Visualforce. So by the way, I'm Edward Encarnacion. I'm the lead developer for Vodafone New Zealand. So just before that, how's everyone's Dreamforce going? Has everyone got home from like Dreamfest? Took about like 2 hours to get home. It's insane. And U2 was all right. So just before we get started, just some forward-looking statements. So if you decide to actually make decisions based on what I say, don't. Make decisions on what is publicly available from salesforce.com. And so let's get this show on the road. Clicker. So just a quick survey first. So who's still using Salesforce Classic right now? Who's switching to? What happened? There you go. So for those who said yes, are you planning on switching on Lightning anytime soon, like a year or 2, 10 years? So just curiosity, is it a year or 2? After I retire. That's a good question. That's a good answer. So the last question is, if you're switching on Lightning for probably, let's say, 1 year, will you stop building new functionality till the organization switches to Lightning? Probably no, of course. We still have jobs to do. So that is sort of like the conundrum that we had when we were like building an old-aged app. It was basically an app from an external App Exchange plugin that we were using for certain parts of the sales process. And it was really old. It was like Windows Vista old. It's terrible. So what we wanted to do was to bring it into the modern world. We wanted to be responsive and all the fucking buzzwords that you want. So we wanted a slick, modern, brand new UI. By the way, that's the same person. That's Johnny Ive. Chief Design Officer, Apple. So we were like, but, question is, we were still in the classic world. So we were like tiptoeing. We wanted to build something new that would sort of bridge the gap between the classic world and what I would be calling an impending Lightning world. So we were like thinking. We were like, thinking long and hard on what to do. So we were thinking about the certain decisions that we wanted to do. We don't want to like just build another Visualforce classic sort of look and feel. We certainly didn't want to do like a Bootstrap or any of those newer CSS frameworks because we knew that we would have to change them back once we switch over to Lightning. So the quick decision is we wanted to do Lightning. But there were certain sort of monkey wrenches in there. Due to certain technical and time limitations, we couldn't really do the Lightning app framework. So we could only do Visualforce. And that was a big limitation for us. That's unique to our problem, of course. And project delivery was within 2 months. Ain't nobody got time for that. Just wanted to do that thing. So we were like, I would call it a weird space when we were like thinking or doing the architecture of the app. So I would call it the Twilight zone. So you were in that weird space, in a classic Lightning. And just to be clear on what it means, aside from being a bad pun, it's actually, it's when you were like not using Lightning interface, but eventually will. You have new functionality that you want to develop, that you want to address today's issues quickly, but you want to build for the future. I mean, as I've said before, we could look at a stopgap solution using standard Visualforce. But reality is when, for most that work in an organization, when confronted with mission-critical or business-based functionality, UI will always be bumped down the backlog or, triage to infinity. So ultimately leading to a less cohesive design language across the organization. So, and we were actually like thinking about what to do. So, and we found out about the Lightning Design System. So the Lightning Design System, just go with that. So Lightning Design System is basically Salesforce's big play to reclaim what apps look like in the platform. So it's in a greater scale of the word. It's a unified design language for the Lightning interface and for the future of Salesforce user experience in general. So in technical terms, it's a UI design framework for the development of apps in the new Lightning interface. So it's basically made up of, I would say, 3 core principles. We have component markups and the component markup and design patterns. We have the grid system, which allows it to be much more responsive. We have CSS definitions, utilities, icons, and fonts, things like alignment, spreading, stuff like that. So, but the Lightning Design System is more than that. It's more than just a design system. There's actually 4 core principles around it. We have clarity. I would love to sum it up as the right information in the right context at the right time. You could see that fairly with the new Lightning that there's a lot less elements going on, and that's good. We have consistency or responsiveness. So any device, it would look uniform across devices at all. We have efficiency. We can see different components. We have like the sales path navigator, which sort of creates a feeling or creates a movement across the opportunity. And lastly, quite a flowery word, we have beauty. So it's really hard to put an ROI on beauty or good interfaces. It's pretty hard to say that this would increase revenue or whatever. But what it does bring is it helps with user adoption. It really, when you sort of respect people's time in using your applications, when you show people that you actually care about what they see on the screen, it goes a really long way as far as user adoption and helping people use your app. Nitty-gritty of the Lightning Design System. So key things around it, we have as I've said before, we have the grid system. So it's basically has anyone used Bootstrap before? So for those that do, it's similar to that. So it's just basically creating a responsive layout for your apps so that it would respond to different screen sizes. We have component design patterns or component markups. So it's just basically some standards on how you want to design different components like autocompletes, date pickers, and the likes. Keynote there, it's just component markup, so it's not really pre-built componentry yet. So all of that will have to be built either using JavaScript or Visualforce or whatever. And Apex tags with predefined UI styling are not styled automatically. So we're talking about Apex page blocks, Apex page block tables, stuff like that. Anything that has a definitive Salesforce classic look and feel will not work. But however, keynote there is like some of the back-end stuff, some of the things that we use in the background, stuff like Apex repeat or Apex output panels that sort of help us generate HTML. They do still work. And I will be showing some examples of how you can use that with the Lightning Design System later. It's fully namespace. It's compatible with other CSS frameworks. And it's a fully encompassing design language from colorways, navigation, motion, animations, typography, and even accessibility, which is really important. So just down to how you're actually going to integrate Lightning Design System with Visualforce. It's a pretty standard thing. So first off, we have like JavaScript promoting. We have JavaScript, Visualforce, and the Lightning Design System. Second, I'll be showing that a little bit later. It's going to be remote objects, JavaScript, Visualforce, and the Lightning Design System. And what I'll be showing right now is just a simple, bare-bones sort of application. We're going to be using Visualforce, a little bit of controller action here and there, and the Lightning Design System added into it. So as I've said before, it's some of the things there, like date pickers, lookups, they're all just component markups. So we will be showing an example of putting it in actually in a Visualforce component and sort of making it really usable for more actions. So I think it's time for a demo. So I apologize. I can't really type I'll just be copying and pasting. I have really small hands, like a certain presidential candidate. I'm not talking about Trump. It's Gary Davis, I think. I don't know. So let's just go to, let me switch down. OK. Oh, shit. So first, I'm going to be showing you what the app looks like. As you can see, we're still in the classic world. We're using the classic interface, but what we're trying to build here is basically what I call an opportunity hub. It's just a place where like different components of an opportunity can be added into the surface. So we got like the standard information right here. We got activity timeline, and we got a data table with the products in the opportunity itself. So the first point we're going to do is we're actually just before that I mentioned about the grid system. So I think that's a really good point to start with. So we're just going to be playing around with the grid system in this app. So let's just open up. Before that, let's just go to the developer console. Just show you the code. If it actually loads up. Cool. So this is basically the core of the Lightning Design System world. So it's, as I've said before, it's just a lot of component markup. It's based on the standards set on the Lightning Design System site. So just go to lightningdesignsystem.com. There's a lot of component patterns that you can just pick up and use in your apps. So for this example, we're using, can see the shit. There you go, a lot bigger. So we're kind of using, we're using the grid system. So I just want to play around with the size of the components. So for example, we have our activity, we have our opportunity information right here. So it just basically informs us of the size of the columns between that. So for now, we're using a fixed size template. So we're using SLDS call between the different components. So we have, this is for the activity timeline. And later on, we have something for the timeline. For the opportunity information, this is for the timeline. So we're just going to switch in between those two things. So for the grid system, we have different, like what I would call media queries around them. So it basically dictates, it basically reads what size the screen is at right now. So we have like different options for SLDS small. We have small sizes, which is, I think, 468 pixels below. We got 76 8 pixels for medium. And we got anything above that is we got the large size. So it's just going to play around with that. So let's say that let's just change that to SLDS 6. Save that. Save that successfully. Oh, shit, closed it. Never did that before. That wasn't in the practice run. So let's just go back. I'm just going to log in for now. There we go. So let's just go back to our opportunities. Let's go to that page that we just added or updated. So we actually added a little button right there. So let's just go to the Opportunity Hub again. So as you can see, what we have done is we just basically change the size or how much size it takes up in the screen. So we changed the media query from a small medium 3 out of 6 to a medium 6 out of 6 so that it spans the whole width of the actual screen. I'm just actually going to show you a little bit more of the app. Expect that thing. OK, we're not going to do that right now. So we're just going to play around with how it actually works in the back end. So we're going to, as I've mentioned before, we're using Visualforce and Apex to actually pull data in and out of the app. So let's just show you a little bit of the code. Cool. So we actually have a controller that we developed for this particular page. It's an Opportunity Hub Lightning. So all it does is we basically just save back and forth using the standard save methods that we know and love. And what we actually use is, if we go back down, we have a couple of action functions that are within the class. So if I could actually find them. Yep, there you go. So we have basically just a couple of action functions that we actually access from some of the JavaScript classes that we developed. And how it gets from the standard HTML input to your form controller is basically just through Apex input hidden. So I just created a couple of JavaScript classes that we just basically accept the component, we accept the input hidden ID, pass it on to that function, and just basically set that function up and send it into the form controller. So if we just save that up. So another thing that we have there is we have a couple of different components that are available with the Lightning Design System. So we have a model component that you can easily use. So it's pretty simple. It's just a couple of markups, just one markup for the modal window, and we have another markup for the actual modal overlay. It's pretty simple. I can show you. It's just basically setting the visibility of both components in and out when you're doing the JavaScript. So just going back to the slides. So we're taking it further. So that particular Visualforce page was a pretty simple and pretty bare bones example. I did that on a Sunday after 3 beers, actually 4. So it's quite simple, and that's the thing really with the Lightning Design System. It's pretty much similar to other CSS frameworks, so you can actually just pick it up and just put it within your Visualforce pages, whether you're using Visualforce or actually using some more advanced JavaScript frameworks, let's say Angular or React or something like that. So for this example, I'm actually going to be showing you some of the end product of the product that we were working on with Vodafone. And just to note, the Lightning interface, it's more than just a reskinning of Salesforce. Just like most people in the room, it's more than just a pretty face. It's a bigger step change. It's not just a different look and feel. It's actually changing the way apps work. So for that, we actually need True Ajax. So that's what we did with the particular project. Is we wanted to use Angular for that particular application. So for just a simple overview of the stack that we use, we used Lightning Design System. We use Visualforce as a general container for the app. We use Angular to sort of maintain the business logic in and out. And we used remote objects. So is anyone familiar with remote objects around here? just that dude over there. And we use force.com. Force.com we use remote objects to access the data from force.com. So I'm just going to show you a quick demo of what we actually built and what's actually possible within the platform. Not that. Sweet. Just blow that up for you. So this app actually was built using the Lightning Design System primarily. We used different components here and there. We used different elements, and we sort of styled it up differently from the standard Lightning. But it's very little, very minimal, just pretty much background colors and back shadows, box shadows. So for this example, we're using like different elements of the Lightning Design System. We're actually reusing some of the components. We have the activity timeline. No, not the activity timeline, the sales path. So we're using that. We're kind of hacking it and using it as sort of like a tab-based interface. So we wanted to convey action between the different tabs. So we use the sales path navigator as an ad hoc tab bar. So let's just show you a little bit more of the app. Cool. So we're actually, since Lightning Design System is basically just CSS and you can use just CSS frameworks and HTML, you can pick and choose between different other frameworks that you can add to the system. So from here, we're actually using Google Charts to actually display that org chart. And we're using, as I've said, we're using Angular for the business logic. So I'm just going to show, just going to add something here and there. So we're using the standard modal window available from the Lightning Design System just to add elements into the app. So let's say, I don't know, let's say Art Vanderlei. Just a very popular dude. Save that. So what happens here is we just basically call an Angular function, and it just refreshes the page from that point. And if we have, what we have here is on the sidebar is basically just creates tasks and activities within the page. So you can just click it and create. So we're actually using some autocomplete components as well. It all use, on the back end, it doesn't use a lot of Apex controllers. We actually use a lot more of remote objects. So if you want to know more about remote objects, just go look up in the developer community. But to tell you a quick story about it, remote objects are basically just Apex tags within the Visualforce page. It provides you with some predefined functions, predefined JavaScript functions, which you can use to access data from any custom object or standard object right away. Additionally, you can actually override that. You can override that using your standard controller if you have some security issues or security issues that you want to sort of work around. Let's just select me and save that. Cool. So that's pretty much it. By the way, we have a couple of other components where we use some of the Lightning Design System Composer elements in there. Just to sort of reiterate my point, the Lightning Design System is actually helps out in imagination, if that's such a word. It basically helps you out in imagining whatever you want to build. So if you go to the lightningdesignsystem.com site, you can actually get a lot of ideas on how you want to create the how you want to shape your application. Let's just go back. So why use the Lightning Design System? So for the Lightning Design System, it's based, why use it with Visualforce? It's basically, Visualforce is still complementary to the Lightning app framework. It's not going anyway. It's not going away anytime soon. So, and there are certain solutions where it's a simple page-driven solution where you want to maintain control of a single transaction that just doesn't fit with like the standard, the Lightning app component kind of thing. Or there is really no need to create Lightning components, or you see that this app is so closed that you don't really see the value of creating Lightning apps. But this is Dreamforce, so Lightning apps are still awesome. I think I should still say that, even though I don't work for them. And that's a key part there. So like for everyone who is actually still in the Salesforce Classic world and who wants to build new interfaces right now, and you see that you're months ahead or years ahead from actually switching to Lightning, creating those little silos of interfaces that has the look and feel of Lightning, it really goes a long way in, I would say, bridging the gap between the two new worlds, really. And I would actually like to end this with a quote. I want to do the voice right. Have you ever wondered if there was more to life than being really, really ridiculously good looking? Was that good? It was good, eh? So what I mean by that is that most of us as developers, hopefully, we are often really, really concerned with, and I know most of us are really good in making things work well, but there would be time, but we're not, not all, some are really sort of a laissez-faire attitude as far as user experience and user design. And I, for one, before I started a project, was like, if someone talked to me about typography for 5 minutes, I would punch him in the face. But not now, because I really appreciate typography in Salesforce sense. So, and out of all of this, it's like a good success story, should we say. It's like when we actually successfully rolled out that little app that we showed you actually a month ago. So we rolled that out, and just seeing like how people use the app, and actually hearing from people saying, "Oh, it's such a joy to use the app," comparing it from the old app. That shows you the power of like user design and user experience in actually helping people sort of use the things that you build better, and that flows on through like different components of the business, whether it's user adoption, I would say compliance with certain business processes and business rules, and it really helps out a lot with the organization in general. So just some next steps and resource. So we have the Lightning Design System site. So I would say it's a Bible of everything about the design system. As I've said, it's a really good resource for actually checking out what components you could use from the Lightning Design System. So the Lightning Design System is pretty simple. It's just basically a set of components. It's a set of rules. It's a set of CSS utilities. And that's basically added. And of course, the principles that guide what you should design in the app. So just go check out that site. It's really awesome. And I'm pretty sure you will get a lot of ideas if ever you're actually developing or planning to develop an app with the Lightning look and feel in Visualforce. And there's also some amazing Trailhead modules. We have the Lightning Design System, which is just a general introduction. We have the Visualforce app, building a Visualforce app with the Lightning Design System, which is just basically a hands-on workshop on how you build your very first Visualforce app with the Lightning Design System. And Q&A. Hopefully there are not too many questions. Oh, yeah.
So could you show us how you customized that Visualforce page again to do the different things that you did with the red header?
Ah, the red and the header.
Yeah, just
Just the second app? The second app? Okay, cool. I would say it's pretty simple if we could actually switch screens. What was that?
Is it difficult to convert existing Visualforce pages?
It really depends on what you're converting. So I would say it takes a lot of work, I guess. And I would say just hold out, because I think they're releasing something that would sort of automatically transform apps between them. But if, yeah, all the page blocks, I think they're working on it, but I don't have any specific timelines. So it could be a long time. Oh, back at the task at hand. So for the example, that page header, how we styled it is basically just, I'll just inspect. It's easier. I can't see shit from here. So we're basically just using CSS. So we just basically affixed another CSS class with the page header. So let's just show that down. Yeah, pretty much. So we basically, because I think I'm using the SLDS page header sort of template in there. So I just basically, yeah, just added another CSS class with it, really.
so that generally will cause conflict.
Nah, not really. Yeah, so I've done that a lot throughout that app. So I've attached different CSS classes with things and like that. So it's, as I've said, it's fully namespace anyway with like the SLDS. So even like using other frameworks, I think it shouldn't be an issue. Of course,
I've actually used the SLDS, but I just found that there was still a lot of white. So I wanted to do.
it is really faint colored. Yes. That's actually what I've noticed as well. That's what I made it a really bright red, because it's really, it doesn't fit with all organizations, should we say. So you want to make things pop out. And yeah, but to answer your question, you just add a CSS class with either the parent or the child. Oh, hey.
Yeah, so you built this great page using Visualforce by using Lightning components. And now let's say you're down the line, you want to go completely Lightning.
Oh, yes.
What does that endeavor take?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. So for this app, I actually was using, so we have the Visualforce page as like the main container, but I developed most of the components as Visualforce components. So I would say it's gonna be a lot, but if you take a sort of approach where you know that you want to switch it to Lightning in the future, if ever, then I would say just create Visualforce components. Compartmentalize each part of the app as a Visualforce component, so at least you can sort of break it down and sort of take the beast one bite at a time, should I say? No worries. Any more? Oh, sorry. Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah, Angular is really cool. Yeah. That's a question. Good question right there. I know that you can put like Lightning components in Visualforce pages, right? So I would say that if you have a general Visualforce container and you put like Visualforce components, it would still probably work, I would say. Not yet. Haven't really tried that out yet. Oh, sorry.
Using your example language version 1, what about the version 2? Do you recommend to start using it or is it stable? Right now they have final release,
Yep.
but how is that with Salesforce? Is it still working the same way or do you recommend to use it? Or
I haven't really checked it out yet, but
big changes related to the Visual
yeah.
also the Visual file you need to compare to another type of file
Mm.
faster and also I think you don't need to use controllers like set your company
Yeah.
application. So you don't have any information about it. You can start using with Salesforce now, with the Lightning.
I haven't been privy to that information yet, but I mean, I guess if you're building it right now, probably try to, if you're building something new, probably try looking at the new version. Probably be best. No more questions? All good? Thanks.